Welcome to Tech in the Car. I'm Oliver. This video is comparing the brand new 2022 Audi RS3 Saloon with the 2018 facelift RS3 Saloon. I'm at Marshall Courton Audi. They very kindly let me use their car here and film it. Please visit them if you're interested in one of these or any Audi. They're great. That's where I am now. And it's very, very cold today. So later on, I'm going to rev both these cars and compare the sound the exhaust makes. Let me know in the comments which one sounds better, the brand new 2022 RS3 or the facelift 2018 RS3. Which exhaust tone sounds better? Same engine, remember. Let's start with talking some stats. So these are both Audi RS3s based off the A3 models. This is based off the 8V generation, and that is the new 8Y generation. Both cars have the same engine. In fact, exactly the same in terms of power. They both have 5-cylinder 2.5 litre engines, which put out 400 PS. The differences are in the torque. The 2018 puts out 480 Newton meters of torque, and the 2022 puts out 500 Newton meters of torque. And if you watch my driving video, you'll also find out that that comes out much, much lower down in the power band, so it feels a lot faster, and it is a lot faster. And let's talk the grills at the front. So the first thing you'll notice is the 8Y has a much wider grille at the front, with the headlights actually having a black surround over to them, and the headlights are actually bigger. On the 8V, this was actually a really big grille for the time, and one interesting fact about the RS grills are they're actually very 3D. They kind of curve and move away from you, which unless you look at them closely, you don't actually notice. This obviously has silver logos. That car has silver logos, being a launch edition, although you can get black Audi logos and RS logos on the Vorsprung version of the RS3. On the front here, you'll notice this has the aluminium styling pack. I selected that myself because I thought it made it look really, really special. It's important to consider that the way the paint color on this car, which is Ara Blue Crystal, looks actually is different depending on if it's got the aluminium or the black pack, which was an option. You could have had this all blacked out. I liked it in aluminium. However, on the launch edition, you can see it's all in black, just like on the Vorsprung version. If you want the aluminium surround, then you have to go for the standard RS version, not the Vorsprung, not the launch edition, and not the carbon black edition. This car is £57,000. There is a price increase coming on the 1st of December. Audi is putting up the prices on these cars. Right now, these are basically impossible to get. If you order one now, you're probably looking at late summer next year. The only cars on the market are these launch editions, which are meant to be dealer demos. Some dealers have sold them. There are a lot of them in Bradford for some reason, and there's quite a few of them on Auto Trader. Way, way, way overpriced, but this is an amazing car. Check out my driving video so you can hear what I think of it in that, and I also do a launch as well. So we talked about the front design. There are some other changes as well. This car is wider than that car. You can actually see it as well. It's got wider arches at the front here which stick out, wider than the 8V generation, but it also is even more three-dimensional, and the RS logo actually is sticking out so far here. It obviously looks like it's going to fall off. It isn't, don't worry, but it looks like it is. So it's a very, very much more aggressive design. You've got these power dome lines over the bonnet here, which don't exist as much on that car. They do have the side lines, but nothing down the middle, so it makes it more aggressive as well. So that's the front of the car. Let's make our way down the side here and look at the differences on the side of the car. And there is one big difference right here behind the wheels, which isn't on this car. Let's talk side lines here. So what's really interesting here is there is a vent behind the wheel arches of the RS3, which means that any air pressure coming behind the tires there will be released, which improves the aerodynamics and the performance. That is very, very clever. The other thing you might notice is the wheels on here. The wheels are perhaps the best wheels that Audi have ever put on any car, in my opinion. They look beautiful in this matte black. This 5-spoke design looks really very, very, very good. At the front here, there's actually a more pronounced vent sort of down the side here. I'm guessing this is a channel for water to escape. And this being the launch edition, it has a heads-up display as well. Also available on the Vorsprung for now, although there's talk of that being removed from the Vorsprung. And then as we come down the side here, you can see there's much more aggressive side lines on this car. You've got a side skirt, a black side skirt, which kicks out from the side there. There's a V shape here, and there's a V shape here at the back, and the rear is wider as well. So it's much more aggressive and more purposeful at the back of the 8Y RS3 than the 8V RS3. And obviously I love my 8V RS3. It's beautiful and it sounds amazing. You'll hear that in a little bit. Another thing to take consideration is the LED headlight. So I've got the dynamic scrolling indicators on my car, and when I lock it, it does that, and when I unlock it, it does that. Nothing that exciting. When I lock the 8Y RS3 and then I unlock it, you will see that the LED lights do a little dart which spells out RS3. That is a very, very, very fun little detail there, which I absolutely love, which makes it just a bit more special. Let's talk tire differences. So the brand new 2022 RS3 has 265/30/19 on the front. These are Pirelli P0 tires. And on the back, it has 245/35 19-inch wheels. So it's got wider wheels at the front than at the back, but both of these are wider than a previous generation RS3. My car came with 235/35 R19s on the front, and on the rear, it came with 235/35 R19. So I had the same width wheels on my car. You could actually order the 8V RS3 with wider front tires than the rear, but even when they were wider, I believe they were 245, not as wide as this car. And the reason for the extra wide front wheels is to try and remove understeer when driving. I certainly did not feel any in the 8Y 2022 RS3. At the rear here, both cars actually look very similar. There are obviously changes to the tail lights. These tail lights have a different design. They're dynamic as well, just like on the 8V. And then we've got our spoiler here. Obviously on the Sportback version, you have a spoiler as well. On the Carbon Edition, this is a large spoiler on both the Saloon and on the Sportback. And then we've got this interesting plasticky finish at the bottom of the bumper. I don't really like that, I have to be honest with you, but it does its job. One thing which is very different, however, is the exhaust. Now the exhaust on this car, the tips are not attached to the exhaust pipes. You can see the exhaust pipes through the back there, and they're not attached. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, look, maybe it's a bad thing because this is not a real exhaust anymore, but also maybe it's a good thing because previous generation RS3's got lots of pitting on the exhaust ends, and to replace them or to repair them required removing the entire exhaust. Now it's just a question of removing the bottom part of the bumper, and in fact, probably because it isn't actually connected to the exhaust, that probably won't even happen. So it'll last longer. Plus they've got the very, very cool perforated insides as well, which I think look ace. They really, really, really do. We've got a reversing camera on the back here. On some cars, unfortunately none in the UK, that will be part of a 360 pack, which will also include cameras on the side mirrors and also on the front. But again, not in the UK, that's been removed from the UK specification. There was never a 360 option on the 8V RS3. There is, however, a reversing camera on the back. There are some differences in terms of the colors of the brake calipers. On the 8V, you could spec it in different colors. I have mine in red. On the 8Y, you can only get a different color if you choose the carbon ceramic brakes or you have a launch edition. Otherwise, you're stuck with the standard color. That's a bit disappointing as I love having red brake calipers, but it's still an amazing car. If you watch this far into the video, please give me a like. It really helps me get more cool cars, and subscribe on the channel for more. Now let's do the thing which you really wanted to hear. What sounds better, the 8V RS3 or the 8Y RS3? Well, let's test it out first and then let's have a discussion about it. Which car did you think sounded better? So I did them both in the same modes. I did comfort first for both of them, and then I did dynamic for both of them. The RS3 8Y 2022 model also has a RS Performance mode, which it doesn't have, so I just revved it again in dynamic. So you can hear it with the valves closed and with the valves open. Now, you might be wondering, why is there a difference? And by the way, let me know which one sounds better in the comments below. There are a couple of reasons why these cars sound different. This has a soft limiter, which means it can't rev up above about 3,500 RPM. My car doesn't have that. I can rev it up as high as I want. These EU emissions regulations have also meant that there can't be as many pops and bangs from the car. So I've got a ton of pops and bangs from my car, as you can hear, and you don't have as many from here, and they can't be as loud. So that's why they sound different. Now, it's worth considering a couple of things. First of all, this car, like I said, has the OPF filters, which make it less loud, and also has a rev limiter. This car does not. But also, this car is not run-in. As anyone will know, with a car, the more you drive it, the more the engine loosens up, the more it's running, the better it sounds. So there's a very good possibility after 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles, 20,000 miles, the 8Y 2022 RS3 will sound a lot better. And it is worth remembering that when driving, you do get pops and bangs. Again, not as loud as the 8V, but you do get them. So this will get louder. This will get louder. So if you're worried about your brand new 50, 60,000 pound RS3 not being loud enough or not sounding special enough, it will get louder. It's very important to remember when driving, it still sounds amazing, although there is noise pumped into there, which doesn't happen on this car, working with that in mind too. However, one way this car does destroy my car is this is a lot faster. It can do 0 to 60 officially in 3.8 seconds. I probably imagine it could do it much, much faster than that. It's got the latest technology. It's got a lot of things which this car doesn't have. And we're going to look at the inside now and talk about that technology. One other change between these cars is boot space. Now, although the 8Y RS3 is actually slightly longer and slightly wider, it has slightly less boot space because it's got the RS torque rear, the torque vectoring system at the back of this car, which means that there is space taken up by the rear clutches, which allow it to have their clever drift mode, which is called RS Torque Rear. So there's slightly less space in the back here than the back of this car. That's just how it is. There's still a lot of room though, as you can see. Let's talk about differences inside the 8Y RS3, the 2022 RS3 compared to the 8V RS3. So there's a few things. First of all, the number one thing people will notice is the steering wheel. This is a round steering wheel. It's a very nice steering wheel, but you will know that in Germany and the rest of the world, it's available as a design pack, which means that even though you get the round steering wheel with the assist features, the adaptive cruise control, the lane assist, in those countries, it's available in a full Alcantara steering wheel with a 12 o'clock stripe in either red or green, which looks beautiful. So it's a bit of a disappointment it isn't like that in this car in the UK. And Audi UK, it's a shame. It's a real disappointment. But you could get this retrimmed, or alternatively, you could order the EU version from Audi. I don't know what it do to your warranty, but you could change it. The other thing which is different in here, of course, the next biggest difference is arguably this 10-inch touchscreen in the middle. Now on the 8V RS3, it's got a 7-inch pop-up screen which uses a jog wheel for you to control the infotainment system. Now, it is very cool having the screen pop up like that, and I've had plenty of people get in my car and ask me where the touchscreen is or where the screen is, and I'll say, wait a second, and it will just pop up. But it's not a touchscreen, which means that lots of functionality that you want to use is harder to use with the jog wheel than it is with a touchscreen. Having Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and the latest infotainment system on here is a big improvement having that touchscreen. The next thing is these seats. These are really, really comfortable seats. I really, really like these seats. They are a big improvement over the 8V seats. In the 8V, they weren't electric. If you had the bucket seats, in this car, they are fully electric with lumbar support. In the 8V, the lumbar support was electric, but the bucket seats were manual. If you wanted electric seats, you had to choose the standard, not very special looking seats. Again, it would have been nice if these were part of the design pack, then the stitching would be contrast, either green or red, and it would look even more special. But I would say that sitting here in the car, looking at these seats, they do still look special. They still do look really, really nice. They do actually have Alcantara on the sides here as well for a tiny bit of contrast, grey Alcantara, which is very, very nice to look at, and it adds a bit of detail up close. The other thing too, of course, in here is the inlays. So this has got carbon inlays all the way across. On the 8V, there were little small carbon inlays available. They weren't as standard on this car. They are standard. Now, I'm not sure how much carbon this really is, but it looks like it is carbon, and it does say carbon inlays on the order sheet. The next thing is these air vents. So on the 8V, they were round, and you could get different colors surrounding them as well for contrast. On this version, they're just long vents, and that means that they're basically not very, very special looking. Again, in the design pack, you can get contrast colors on them, red and green, which again add to the interior design and make it look slightly nicer. One thing this does feel is more driver focused. Now, this design with these hexagon air vents facing the driver is not unique to the RS3. It's available on all the A3 models, but it does feel more special in the RS3. It could just be because this is a new car and my car isn't new, and I'm excited by being in a new car, but it does make it feel a bit more special to me. The next thing is the doors. Now, the doors are different. The handles are in a different position. These seats can also be memory seats on the Vorsprung version. And then we've got our colored ambient lighting. So we've got ambient lighting in the pockets, in the glove compartment, in the door vents, along the sides. There's lots of ambient lighting in this car. And there's also along the aluminium silver trim up here, there's also lighting as well. And there are different colors. There are over 30 colors, and you can change the brightness and the combinations. Something you can't do on the 8V facelift RS3, it's white, and it's only in a few limited places, and it lets it down a bit because it doesn't have that cool ability to customize the interior of your car, which I really, really like on this car and makes it more special. Other than that, it's very, very similar in the car. They are a bit bigger and wider, the 8Y RS3s, but they feel very, very similar inside, and you know, they do feel very, very similar. The center console is different on the 2022 to the 2018. We have our cup holders here, which are kind of pull out little things here, and then we've got our space here, and then we've got our charging port, and we've got 2 USBs. This is obviously only charging on the launch edition. Audi have removed the wireless charging from all UK models other than the launch edition due to the silicon shortage, which is why cars are very, very delayed as well. On the 8V, there is also wireless charging, but it is actually inside this area in the middle, and the cup holders are actually here where the wireless charging is on this car. Which design is better? I'm not sure. Obviously, if you had wireless charging on the new RS3 in the UK, then that would be a great place for the phone because it's in the middle and it uses wireless Android Auto and CarPlay to connect, but it doesn't. So, you know, that space is just going to be used for whatever you have, I guess. Not just your phone, probably lots of other things as well. Interior-wise, it does feel more special than 8V. The 8V was more about luxury, I would say. I would say this is more about a driver-focused environment, and I think that is shown in the driving of this car as well. Now, I can't really make a video about the RS3 without looking at the engines of the RS3. Now, it is worth remembering that these engines are actually exactly the same, and they look exactly the same, and they are the same engines, but let's just show them and see. Both these cars have exactly the same engine. My engine's a bit dirtier because it's been obviously driven around a lot. 2.5 litre, 5-cylinder Audi RS3 engine. This one is a lot cleaner looking, but in terms of packaging, where everything is inside, it is exactly the same. There is no difference. Now, this car has more torque in this engine, and there's probably slightly more power, and it's definitely faster. But in terms of the design, the packaging, it looks exactly the same. It does look like there's some cladding on the inside of the bonnet here, which doesn't exist on the 8V model. But other than that, everything else is exactly the same with these cars. I hope you enjoyed this video comparing the 2022 Audi RS3 with the 2018 facelifted RS3. Please give me a like if you found this video entertaining and maybe educational as well. And do let me know which car sounded better to you. And which one would you buy? Faster? Better sounding? Let me know down below. And don't forget to visit Marshall Coulson Audi to buy your Audi because they're really, really helpful here and give great customer service. Big thank you to them. And thank you to everybody watching.